So guys, listen in, happiness class, do listen. Okay, so, what do I talk about here? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, it's not recording or? Yeah, is that recording by the way? I can't tell. Oh, probably is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, anyway, so I do a happiness course. It's got 33 lessons. You might be wondering why is that relevant to happiness? Because I've been talking about relationships, I've been talking about economics, and this is the last one before I repeat it all again. It's going to be a summary, and this is kind of like a hook to get people to. I'm going to try to stay next to the board, my cameraman tells me. Thanks, Simon. Okay, so anyway, very quickly, my happiness class is based in psychology but inspired by Islam, and you can check out all my happiness classes here. Always starts every week, roughly at 2 o'clock, a little bit late usually. Okay, and so why am I talking about why women love Islam? Because there's a lot of problems in families, and we've got feminism upside down, and Islam invented feminism well over 1,000 years ago and got it right, and I'm going to demonstrate why, based on psychology and things like that. So, in short, just why do I even say why women love Islam? So the number one religion in terms of converts in the West is Islam by far, and then the people who convert most out of those people are women, Western women. So there must be a reason why they're converting to Islam, and then I'm just going to go through some of the reasons why basically Islam helps women, but at the same time when you're helping women you're helping all of humanity. So let me just go through a few ideas very quickly. At the moment, we're really struggling in families in the West, and you can tell families are struggling in the West because there's so many divorces. We have a population implosion. I'm not sure if people know. Did you know that Europe is suffering from not enough children? So the European countries are desperately trying to get more children, right? So that's just a sign that there's a lot wrong with families at the moment. But people basically know that's the reality. But why is it happening? Well, there's a thing I call Western feminism, so the new version of feminism versus Islam, and that basically says men and women are literally the same. And I'm like, I've been looking around, I'm sure men and women look different, right? But then they say, you know what, besides that, yeah, you do, I'm sure, we're doing a test right now, I'm sure I can tell who's a man and woman, right? Okay, but then people go, oh, you know, they're all equal and they do exactly the same thing, and I say, yeah, you know, equal rights and all that kind of stuff, right? But should they be doing exactly the same job, right? So I always say, I just go back to psychology, and at the end of the day, it's up to you what you want to do, but the results are going to be different depending on what you do. So if you make bad choices, you're going to have bad relationship problems, etc. So what does psychology tell us about women, for example? I think nowadays we are really confused about the reality of how specialist our biologies are. Like, they're incredibly well designed, and they're incredibly well designed for a certain purpose. So for example, when women, am I saying in short roughly, isn't it? Yeah. When women have babies, their whole brain architecture changes. Hey, all right. Their brain architecture changes to be better at taking care of babies, which makes sense, right? We're incredibly well designed. It would make sense. So if I was an elite athlete, right? Okay, and somebody said, you know what? You're going to be rubbish at, I don't know, picking up the trash or something, but you're going to be the best 100-meter racer ever, right? Just because your brain is specialized in just doing that. Then I'm here, yeah, give me the surgery, man, as long as there's no side effects, right? But scientists now say when women have children, their brain specialize in taking care of children, right? And then in the same way, do you disagree? I see. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, it's okay. That's okay. Cool. That's like you were like, oh, what is he saying? You're a Muslim lady, so but you can disagree with me, by the way. You know.
I fail to see the psychologically, yes.
Yes.
Psychologically, women perhaps have an ability to be more emotional, right? Psychologically, but you know, regarding the upbringing, our ability to bring up children, I think that's societal, and I don't think that's the reason why women love Islam. I think women love Islam because of its ability to defend us when we want to cover ourselves, when we want to hide ourselves. So I'm not.
So you mean like clothes sort of thing?
Clothing and
I'm going to bring that up as well.
I know, but it's just that the psychological part is a bit iffy.
When I say psychological, it's even biological, right? I'm saying literally, did you know that brains of women change? Literally change. It's not like just thought. They literally change in shape and connections, so you're better at taking care of children. Did you know that?
Well, I don't, and I fail to see. Well,
Okay, okay, you failed to. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so what I do is all my videos on this website, I put links to the evidence. So, I mean, I don't really. At the same time, I know you're saying like this, which is totally fine, right? I'm not the kind of person who's like, I'm going to convince you, you have to agree, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, care of the fact, and I really think most people in society literally think something is fact, where psychologists for the last 70 years have been saying literally the opposite. Right, so I just said like it's a fact, and I feel I'm a Londoner. I feel really sorry for Londoners because they're getting more and more depressed, and it's like the answers are obvious. Do you know what I mean? But let me just finish off the point, and maybe you'll get where I'm coming from, right? So why am I talking about this biology? Maybe people are getting it a little bit, okay? Then there's the men, right? Men are known. This is like a psychological trait in terms of their thinking. The difference between men and women, the greatest difference is their interest. This is the greatest difference in men and women. And I'm a coder and a teacher, and I've got a lot of experience with this as well, right? Men are interested, and I've got the links for this as well, right? They're interested in, I call it industrialization, they call it systemization. That's what psychologists call it, right? So they like turning things into systems, mechanizing things, right? Women like, socializing, right? It's not unknown, right? These are key differences that psychologists point out that really distinguish. Say again? So what psychologists do, I'm not talking about Muslim psychologists, I'm talking about, yeah, sure,
So did you ask a woman?
Sure. So the question was, did you ask a woman, right? So when psychologists do it, they ask loads of women, they ask loads of men. Then they do repeat like any scientific experiment, they repeat it all over the world again and again and again. So this is based on evidence.
You yourself, did you ask a woman? Did you ask multiple women yourself?
I just know within my family that's what they like. So, I mean, I don't do massive surveys. What I do, okay, I just believe in science, right? And I believe in science. So what does that mean? If science tells me the earth is round, I don't ask everybody. I kind of like think about it. Does it make sense? And whatever. And then I go, yeah, that kind of stuff, right? Anyway, so all I've pointed out so far is women are really good at, and it shouldn't be surprising, really good at taking care of children. It doesn't mean women only take care of children, right? It doesn't mean but I'm not going to breastfeed, right? Do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, right? So, and then the other side is men are really good at basically making money, because if you're good at industrializing, systemizing things, you're basically creating more and more value, right? Now, does that mean this? I think one of the main problems in the West is that people are valued by how much money they make, and go, "Oh no, you're saying women are less valuable." No, because I don't value things like money over love. I value being able to take care of the next generation. That's really important to me, right? So anyway, so I'm not saying men and women are unequal in terms of value. I just think they should specialize, right? This is a well-known idea, specialization in society, right? So I'm a teacher, right? But I could be a doctor as well. But if I try to be both, I'll be rubbish at both, because I should be too spread out.
The link with Islam.
So Islam, thank you very much, because I think you're kind of bringing it back. Like, where am I going with this, right? So Western feminism is all about, everybody's equal, everybody just do each other's jobs, doesn't matter. Islam is like, no, women should do women's jobs, men should do men's job, and you win that way. Okay.
Women's job. What is a woman's job?
Cool. So taking care of the household, number one. Okay, that's the number one. Right. So I like that. There's a bit of pushback. Like the Muslim lady is like, oh, what are you talking about? All right, that's cool. That's cool. Anyway, so. Yeah, but don't put your hand in front of the camera the way we do. But thank you, brother. I know you're always a good fan here. I appreciate it, right? Anyway, so you don't have to agree, right? Okay, I'm just saying these things work, okay, because in capitalism, if you specialize, you do better, right? If you try to do everything, you do really badly.
You are Muslim, you don't respect women, you're Islam.
Oh yes, I'm going to come to that. Muslims respect women the most. Okay, Muslim men respect. I think. Well, anyway, just generally Muslims respect women the most, and I'll talk about that in a minute, right? Okay, so where are we? So first of all, division of labor, we call it. It's a good thing. You get better results overall if you specialize, and we can see biologically, men are better at making money, women are better at taking care of the family. That's a full-time job. Anybody who tries to do both, you can see the results. Families are breaking down. There's too much stress. There's a lot of other problems, like really bad sex lives, for example. I've talked about that as well. If you're both working, you're not going to have a good sex life either, right? There's a million problems. Okay, so job versus family, I kind of touched on that. So, and again, I've got millions of links about that, but let me just talk about the idea of having both parents. Let's say if you've got children, should I? Okay, I'll just stay. Oh, okay, I'll stay still. Thank you, cameraman. I really appreciate it, Simon. Okay, so yeah, so there's a thing called, I think, the two-income trap. Okay, and there's video for this as well, right? And this, by the way, it's a woman talking about this, right? There's been studying what happens when you try to both work. If your both parents are working, right? Then you have to employ a nanny and 100 other problems, and you don't get particularly happy. You just get stuck needing more money to survive.
What in Islam argues that this is why. What in Islam shows or makes women, love the religion.
What in Islam says? What is there a
makes women love it?
What in Islam makes women not?
What? Oh my God, I can't even speak properly. What part of Islam is attractive to women?
Attracts women.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Oh no! Thank you so much. Your questions are the best, really. Your questions are really the best. So to summarize, people get depressed if they are not going in line with their nature. I meant to talk about that, and you're just helping me, so I appreciate it, right? Okay. So if, like, for example, if I'm walking forwards, great. If I'm walking backwards, well, my muscles are not designed for that, right? I'm going to start harming myself, right? It's the same with psychology, okay? If you do things like, for example, if you're not around nature enough, that's really bad for you. So do more of the nature stuff. This is not me making it up. This is what psychologists say, right? So all I'm saying is, if your biology is making you design for a certain thing, you go that way, you'll be happier, right? So that's what in Islam, right? So I'm talking about two things really. There's like more effective families, more happy families, right? Because they are using less energy and getting bigger results, because it's called division of labor, specialization, right? But also psychologically, you're more in line with your true nature. It's great. That's what I'm saying, right? So those are the two key ideas.
What do you have to say about the influence of culture in Islam? Because nowhere does it say in the Quran that a woman should be at home in the kitchen, for example. But that's what many Muslim men believe.
So no, it's definitely in Islam.
That's what I'm saying.
No. But it's definitely in Islam that woman is responsible for taking care of the children and family, and men are. This is kind of well known. It's not like a secret or something, right? But women can work, but it's not preferred because of the specialization problem, right? You just make more money, but then you end up having more problems as well, like getting a babysitter, and then you have to pay for the babysitter, and a million other problems. You get.
What does that have to do with women and loving Islam? What does that have to do? I failed to see the link again.
Okay.
I'm looking for the link.
Sure. Okay. So if you're living a happier lifestyle, okay, and you're living more in tune with your nature, then I would say women will become happier with that. But maybe I missed out the starting off fact. Did I mention this, that most converts to women? So most converts to Islam are women. Did I mention that? Okay, cool. So there must be a reason. They're not doing it illogically, right? They must like it. And I watched loads of convert videos of even people like who started off not Muslim for a couple of years. One of my favorite ones is somebody called Mummy and Aman. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit, right? Where she starts off not a Muslim, and then she experiences being in a Muslim family and learns about Islam. And she's like, this is just the best. Like, she comes from England and she's like, I don't want to go back to. The reason why I've got interested in her is because she's living in a country called Jordan, where I lived for a couple of years, and she talks about all the cool stuff about the society and how people are loving and whatever, and the family atmosphere and the multi-generational households and all this kind of stuff. All of these things are known to make you live longer and live happier. So I don't know if that helps, but it's kind of like a very rounded whole wholeness in the lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not even just saying women love Islam. I'm saying everybody loves Islam. But it's one of the reasons I pointed this out, because people will say like, oh, Muslim women are forced to do this and they hate their religion and they're just wearing the hijab because they have to. And I'm like, are you sure about this? Because when I see Muslim women, they're like the happiest people, literally are the happiest people. And in psychology, there's loads of evidence that they're happier than people who are not. For example, if you wear modest clothing, and I'll get to that now. Okay, if you wear modest clothing, you're going to have less body image issues. This is just like psychological fact, right? And it makes sense, right? If your body is not the only thing that you're valued by, then you're going to be happier, right? And there's I don't know, you probably know better than I do, right? Because I'm an old man, right? So, like, on Instagram, like, women or girls have suicidal thoughts after going on to Instagram because of all the people they're comparing themselves. This is, again, psychologically well known, right? So, exactly, thank you for saying yes, say yes all the time.
Yes.
Thank you, very appreciate it. I've got a rubbish mic, you see, so I have to do this all the time. So, I shouldn't do that because then nobody can hear me playing. Yeah, anyway, so, on my massive list. So anyway, are Muslim women oppressed? This is another thing. So when I'm saying like, there's so many fantastic results of Islam and the Muslim families are growing, that's evidence that the families are working, all this kind of stuff, then the immediate response I've been, because I always ask a lot of people about this, they go, the Muslim women are forced, and I say, even in the West, they say, yes, all of them are secretly forced to be, and it's like, have you seen Muslim women? I'm looking at you don't look like you're oppressed or something. Do you know what I mean? Are you oppressed?
At times, I would say yes.
Okay, interesting, yeah? So it's an interesting, rounded opinion, right? So maybe you don't feel, and I can actually understand. I know, for example, there's a friend of mine who's a regular person here who left Islam. He's a man, and he left it for Buddhism, and I totally understand. You know why? Because he didn't know anything good about Islam. He wasn't taught anything good about Islam. So leave it, fine. And now I talk to him, and I say, listen, you like Buddhism, okay? Now, why do you like Buddhism? And he'll say something. I say, there are no details in that Buddhism. I'm going to tell you all the facts about how Islam can change your life, and he agrees, right? That's cool. So no problem. It's great. So, list. So, modesty, yeah, I talked about that. I'm talking about Ask a Convert, right? So, back to this, one of my favorite channels, Mummy and Aman, right? Aman is a capital Jordan, right? And why I like her channel so much is because it's not just about her convert story, but it's her life before Islam, after Islam, and just why she said she could have gone back to England anytime, right? But she loves it in Oman so much. I'm even thinking moving back to Oman, right? Which hopefully my parents aren't watching this because they're a bit worried. They're like, oh no, he's going back there again. But I love it, right? Okay, so just listen. You know what? I'm not into like, I'm going to convince you hardcore. You must believe this. Like, watch some of these people who are converting to Islam. Some women. It's like, why do they love it so much? And you can see there's practical reasons, theological reasons, but the family. It's like you actually have a family that supports you.
What about the control Islam gives to men and that effect on women? What do you think about that? Because there is a hadith, forgive me, my memory is not correct, but there is a hadith and it says if a woman does not give sex to a man, that woman is cursed by the angels, and there are many men that follow that hadith. They do follow it. What do you think about that and that effect on women?
No, I think that's a great question because I've talked about that same hadith, right? And I do encourage it as much as possible, but the thing with religion and Islam is how much you believe it yourself. And in Islam, okay, let's give a short answer just in case there are some men listening and they get the wrong impression, right? Okay, first of all, number one is Islam says there's no compulsion in religion. So this is a religious choice. Okay, I'm saying it works better because there's a lot of family problems because there are sexless marriages, and I'll do a whole class on that, right? Okay, so I do recommend women try to do that as much as possible, and I think they should be given less, like when you have too much work to do. If you're working 9 to 5 or 9 to 8 or whatever long hours, you're going to be really tired. You won't be able to do that. So that's why I recommend women not going to work. Yeah.
Question: when you say happiness class, can you define happiness?
No, I can't. It'll take too long. But basically, generally, long-term happiness is the only answer I'll give. Anyway, so yeah, go on. Your question.
Again, why is it that? Sorry. again, why is it that we women, right, have to obey men and try to have sex with them, as according to the hadith? You know,
No, that's a good question. Good question. That's a good question. So men have a higher sex drive generally. That's why. So that's why it's encouraged. So for example, there's a lot of things the other way. So for example, men and women should both be educated, but there's only hadith about if you teach your daughters or train your daughters, educate your daughter, then you'll go to heaven, right? You don't have a similar thing about men. But generally, it's said Muslims should always study from the cradle to the grave, right? So there's encouragement to go against the downward trend. Do you know what I mean? So if something is difficult, then you tell those people. So women have a lower sex drive, so they're told, you should do this. And men, they don't. There's a lot of cultures where they don't encourage their daughters to be educated. So they're told, you'll go to heaven if you educate your daughters. So there's always that kind of pressure like that. You know what I mean?
A woman says no, and she means that. Is it right to be punished in the afterlife or an existential punishment? I mean, does she have a right to say no if she doesn't want to have sex?
That's a great question, okay? So again, Islam is just based on nature, right? So it's a bit... So God doesn't teach you anything beyond your capacity, and that's another verse of the Quran. No, God doesn't strain you or whatever beyond your capacity. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love the support. Everybody's helping me out here in different ways, yeah? Including your questions are the best in yours. Thank you. So basically... Yeah, go on. Thank you. So, yeah.
When does it become rape?
Okay, so first of all, if the woman says no, then it means no, because in Islam, like I said a minute ago, there's no compulsion in matter of religion. You can't force anybody. This is a faith-based idea, right? Okay, and then second of all, if she says no, why would she go to hell and all this kind of stuff, right? And first of all, beyond that, God is the master of the day of judgment. Master in the Quran means he decides at the end. Say he, there's not really he, right? It's not he or she, right?
She says she'll go to hell anyway. She says the angels will curse her. It doesn't say she'll go to hell.
Fantastic. All right.
But I'm sorry, but curse in Islam is a big thing. We've got fitna, we've got zina. But that curse, the idea that it's written in the Quran and the Hadith, that's the biggest issue. Why are women always cursed? If a woman takes off a hijab, the angels curse her from behind. How does that make a woman love Islam?
Do you have... I'll quickly respond to that, right? Okay, so first of all, it's all about caring, right? So hopefully you might have brothers or a dad or whatever, right? And if they have a really high sex drive, right, compared to a woman, right, it's just about caring, about doing the needs of the other person. So for example, in Islam, there's a teaching that says women like crystal, right, or basically beautiful glass, and you should take care of them accordingly, right? There's all these, both sides, taking care of the needs of both sides. That's all it is. So you might not agree, and you might say this is completely wrong, you don't have to follow it, but I'm just saying it will make for a more happy household. It'll make for a happier household. Okay, so that's my brief answer. I'm not trying to convince anybody.
Sorry to interrupt you, brother, but this question comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And Islam is about what's good for the whole society. Islam is about everybody playing their part. So why should a woman dress a certain way? Because in the grand scheme of things, what does it cause? In that little moment, you may not do anything, but a woman may see her dressed like that, she may copy her. Everything has a knock-on effect. So what happens if a woman refuses a man have sex? He's going to look elsewhere. He's going to think, oh, my wife, I can't get it from my wife. He may start scrolling on his phone.
Okay, so that was a fantastic answer.
Everybody has their part to play, and it's about the bigger picture, not that little reason in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally agree, and so I'm just giving very basic answers, but you gave a more rounded answer. But I talked about the headscarf protecting women psychologically, and psychological fact. But non-Muslims study this, right? But then,
the reason why I come to Islam is because this religion has an answer for everything. It's like literally, it's the answer to every problem. So
Fantastic.
in the grand scheme of things, it breaks society into units and says, what's your job, what's your job, what's your job, to be conducive to society as a whole. So it's a holistic religion.
Fantastic, beautiful. It's just like a well-run company. Everybody has a role, right? Okay, fantastic. I mean, and of course, so there's the first thing where, at an individualistic level, why would women wear headscarves, or why would they try to please their husbands? Okay, why would they wear a headscarf? Because it helps them first. But then it also, I've lived in Muslim countries, and I just feel so much more relaxed because there's such a family atmosphere, and people are not looking at each other's bodies.
Yeah, I mean, even on a, we always think about women, but think about men. Why do I have to wear a beard? I mean, if I had the choice, I would shave this beard off, right? Why do I have to wear a beard? Because with me, it doesn't really make a difference if I shave a beard. But as a whole, we look like a unit. Okay, all Muslims have beards. I can spot a beard. I can spot a Muslim from here. You know what I mean? So as a society level, it has a reason. You know what I'm saying?
I've talked about this. I call it the happiness uniform, because you know why? Because if you're Muslim, you love everybody. You don't just love it, and you have to go around smiling at everybody, right? So if people recognize a Muslim lady or a Muslim man, they know they're relaxed with that person. They can smile at that person. In England, I feel really sad. In London, I feel really sad because I try to make eye contact with strangers and smile at them just to uplift the atmosphere, right?
If we look at charity, why is even the smallest bit of charity rewarded so well? Because that can have a knock-on effect. I could give somebody £1 and they think, oh, okay, I don't need to rob anyone today, or I don't need to go out and beg from someone else today. It's a holistic thing. So, but as humans, we have a difficulty looking at the big picture.
Not us humans. It's become a westernized, individualistic attitude, and when we look at big picture and each other's needs, we're much happier. That's right. So, and that's what I want to bring back to this country. I'm in London. This is my town, and I want people to be happier. I don't really need to win any debate. You know what I mean? I don't even want to. I'm not even a public speaker kind of guy. I prefer to be in my own corner, right? Okay. So, just like why are Muslim women oppressed? I'm just going to run through it really quickly. First university made by Muslim women, right? This is like well over 1,000 years ago, before Oxford University, Cambridge. In fact, Oxford and Cambridge came from Muslim universities, right? They were brought about by a Christian priest or a monk, right? Who learned from Muslims, right? And they're well ahead in terms of women's rights. So the rights that women got for right to inherit property 100 years ago, Islam taught that 1,500 years ago. So it's like Islamic feminism is like so far ahead that there's no comparison, right? Okay, and then there's like this is one of my favorite sayings of Prophet Muhammad. You probably know this, right? When they say in terms of respect of mothers, it goes something like this: a Muslim. I'm going to look for a non-Muslim. There's so many. Everybody's a Muslim here, right? Okay. So everybody probably knows this one, right? But you're a new Muslim. Maybe you like to. I don't know if you know this one, right? It goes like this. So a man came to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, "Who should I love after Allah and the Prophet?" And he said,
your mother.
right? And then he said, "Who should I love?" Let's do a duo, right? Who should I love after that?
Your mother.
And then who should I love after that?
Your mother.
Right, and then after that, finally, after the third person, who should I love after that? Your father, and then your, other relatives, right? And so you can't really say, is there a religion more feminist than that? I don't know of any, right? I'm not a fan of UFC, Ultimate Fight, this cage fighting, whatever, right? But I started listening to it after Khabib. He's like the greatest, UFC fighter of all time, right? And it's really funny how you hit. Oh, what's your name?
My name's Abdullah.
Abdullah, nice to meet you. Khalid's my name, right? So it's really funny how such a tough man would say things like, he just talks about how much he loves his father and his mother. And just yesterday I was watching a video and it's like, I tell my dad I love my mother even more than you. Like, this is the toughest guy in the world, right? And that's how Muslims are, and that's how Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was like the toughest warrior, yet he cried for people's problems. Like that's how you can't beat that. It's an amazing role model.
I think
Yeah, so humble.
Isn't he? Yeah. He's such a humble person.
I'm surrounded by converts here, which is another thing. The cameraman's a convert as well.
the biggest thing that we have to kind of try and relate to people, Western people these days, is the character of the Prophet ﷺ. Because unfortunately, as Muslims, we're not displaying his character as hard as we try and as much as we should. We're not emanating the Prophet ﷺ. The reason why Islam spread so much is not by the sword, as many people believe. It was because of the character of the tradesmen. They went into the towns, they started dealing with the people who were really honest, and people thought, wow, these people are so honest, and that's how Islam spread. Now, if we displayed some of these characters, England would be a Muslim country by now. But alhamdulillah, it is happening very slowly.
Well, it's I mean, I agree. No.
Not that we want it to be.
We want more happiness around the world, and we think Islam gives that happiness. So we care about everybody, every human being. And so we're not saying you should become Muslim, join our group. It's more like you should be Muslim. It'll be good for you, but it's up to you because Islam says it's up to you.
They should be benefiting from Islam. They should be feeling the dust of it at least, and that's what will bring people in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and last thing, just because it's kind of like the elephant in the room, just because, every other minute, like, there's somebody saying something terrible about Islam. At the moment, it's Iran, like the hijab burning thing, right? Okay, so here are my rough thoughts. First of all, like I said before, Islam says there's no compulsion in religion, so nobody should be forced to wear a headscarf. But at the same time, I love watching tourist videos, okay, and people are so I see Westerners going to Iran before all this stuff happened, right? And they love it. It's one of their favorite countries to go to because people are so happy. So they must be doing something right. One, okay. Second thing is they seem to be not a particularly religious country from what I've seen. So, for example, from the tourist videos I saw, there's actually a women's fashion where they color their front hair because they're going to show it. And this is exactly the thing that apparently this lady was killed for. It doesn't add up,
We don't know until we know, do we?
That's true. We don't know for sure, and I agree with that, right? And so my thing would be every time the West wants to go and destroy a country, they start saying bad things about that country, and they say, we need to free them right now, and they go in, and what do they do? What did they do in Iraq? They killed 1 million women and children, right? So just beware, if BBC is telling you something, take it with a pinch of salt.
You know what? It's such a strange time, isn't it? I mean, this has happened time and time and time again. We've seen the pattern, and every time we fall for it. Gaddafi, what country is that? Sorry,
Libya, yeah.
Libya. They did it to Libya. They empowered the people to do it because they don't need to do war these days. They don't need to drop bombs. They don't need to send soldiers. They make a war with the people. Now, a lot of these Muslim countries have got it way better than we've got it over here. We pay ridiculous tax. We've got tremendous stress, family stress, money stress. But we go over there, it's just so peaceful. The kids are playing out. You know what I mean? The birds.
I'm just going to tell you, right? I love what you're saying because when I go to Morocco or Jordan, where I used to live, you go to a park at midnight and the grandmas are there and all the kids are playing with stranger kids. Literally, I'm not exaggerating, right? That's just how it is.
I don't think they've had enough exposure to the West. They see television and they think, wow, they've got it good over there. And unfortunately, they're going to use this.
I think it works both ways. Like the Arabs saying, "Oh, we don't have enough," and they go to the West and they realize they have a really tough time in the West, right? But actually, even I talk to Arabs and they love being here because they've got an idea. Even though they're struggling, they still have an idea in their head of what it is to be here. And actually, to be more balanced, sometimes there is a really strict kind of regimes in certain countries which are not particularly nice, right?
Yeah. There is, but you're right. But I mean, is it a strict regime here? Would you say?
Yeah, just more subtle.
It's more subtle. I mean, we're the most watched in terms of CCTV. We're the most watched. We've got the most legislations, laws, and things like that. But I don't know. Where would you rather live? I know where
I'd rather live.
Where would you rather park your car? Where would you rather park your car?
That's true, right? I feel like moving back to Jordan soon again, right? Maybe an African country as well.
Unless you're going to kill somebody or do drugs, you generally don't have anything to worry about.
That's true, right? I don't need to be rude to the King of Jordan, which is against the law or whatever, right? But why would I want to do that? And I think a lot of the problems in this country, if we keep complaining about the government when we should be complaining about ourselves. How do they get there, right? That's my attitude as well.
Sorry to cut you, but I watched something very interesting this morning that explained that, these, we'll call them dictatorships for now. But in terms of when you're the king or whoever, the sheikh, wants to get something done, he go over there and say that something needs doing, he'll say, right, that needs fixing, we'll get fixed. Here, the legislation, it has to go through parliament, it has to be, it takes absolutely years and billions.
So basically what you're saying is, because a lot of people are saying, every time we have an election, people go, we don't believe in democracy anymore because we've got Boris! Or the next person is like, what is going on? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we voted for them as well, right?
Who voted for them?
We did.
But we didn't, did we?
Okay, yeah. Well,
how many leaders?
I get what you're saying, because whoever you vote for, they're with the same policies, basically. Go and rob another country is the same policy.
3 prime ministers in the last how many months, but we didn't vote for any of them.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to try to whiz through this stuff super fast. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so when I say I'm not trying to win a debate, okay, it's because I think the debate, we've already won. The Muslims have already won. Let me explain how. Okay, we've got a population implosion in the West generally, okay? There are not enough children being born, okay, and I see that as a result of bad families or families being broken down. So that's demonstrating how a certain value system just doesn't work, which is the Western value system. It doesn't work. Your families don't stay together. But it's not all of the West. It's the Muslims have the highest in terms of number of children. It's the Muslims, right? It demonstrates that their family system works. So whose ideas are going to continue to the next generation? It's just going to be the Muslims. Yeah.
I mean, England. England used to be very Islamic. You look at videos from 100 years ago. That was Islam. You know what I mean? People were covered. They had morals. They had values. So there's a change in values in the West. That's what's happened. It's not about having children. They've empowered women in the wrong way. So women think that they have to compete with men in the workplace, especially. It takes them away from the home. They don't have time to have children. They don't have time to raise their children.
100%. Why are women and men competing? It's the saddest situation, right? We're supposed to be friends, right? So, yes.
Started.
Yeah. You can go. Yeah. That's cool. I'll talk. No, I'll ask you. I like you being here. I'm gonna try to get to the end of it. Okay, cool. No. Sorry?
Your channel?
Khalid Safir. You'll see the link in the description. BigQuestionsAnswered.com. Yeah.
Make sure this gentleman knows.
I'm gonna give you my card. Sorry?
Are you just sound?
This is. Oh no, he's the camera.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
He was asking you, so I thought he just
Yeah. No, he's just trying to plug in. He's a big fan. He's always commenting on my videos, and so I always appreciate it.
tell me the
Yeah. So okay, let me whiz through this. So West's ideas are basically failed, and they're going to die with them. So that's fine. So I don't have to really beat them. They're going to lose by themselves anyway, right? Okay. And I don't say in a mean way. It's a sad way, right? Yeah. Right.
It is failing.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how I'm going to kind of go to sort of the general reason, because this is lesson number 33 of a happiness course, and it's a summary. Okay. And basically, the next thing is something like you just said earlier on. Islam solves everything, and how does it solve everything? Really quickly, just the headlines. Godlessness is the biggest issue, right? Without God, you're lost, right? What do I mean by lost? I see in my common day experience, I'm really relaxed about stuff, right? But my friends who are atheists, they struggle with every tiny thing, and that's because, and this is psychologists have known this. Nietzsche said this as well, right? He said, if you have a why, you can deal with any how. Basically, you can deal. So Muslims have a why. When you have a problem, they know, oh, that's part of the plan, God's plan, right? And they can see God's plans happening. So you're going to be lost is a massive problem if you don't believe in God, and psychologists say that, and I always put links to all these videos by atheist psychologists for the last very, very long time, 70 years, right? Anyway, then they're more lonely. There's no community, right? So Muslims, in fact, even if you're Jewish or you're Christian, at least you meet once a week. But Muslims meet 5 times a day if they're near a mosque, right? And in Jordan, you have a mosque every few hundred meters, right? So, and a lot of Muslim countries, right? So you have community. And what is do you know what the biggest killer in London is?
Probably depression or suicide or something like that.
Yeah, loneliness, which leads to all of that, right? So why should there be so much loneliness when there's so many people? Because people are not connecting. They're not connecting spiritually at a brotherly level, right? And when
London is one of the most loneliest places. I think. I'm from Leeds originally.
Yeah.
So as many people as there are here, it's a very lonely place because everybody's in their own little bubble, their own little box.
Yeah.
There's not really a sense of community. So yeah, but what you said just there, you're completely right. If you don't have a reason for things, then you have no purpose. If you have no purpose, you have no, no motivation. So I think when it comes to the atheists, if you can call them that, because I don't really believe there are such things as atheists.
I agree.
In fact, there was an interesting test, and
Go on.
I would look.
Go and say it. I know this one. I know what
You know where I'm going with, but I would love someone to do it in front of my eyes, so I can see if it's true or not.
Yeah.
But apparently, atheists were attached to a polygraph test, and they were asked things like, "Do you believe in God?" And things like this, and they actually failed when
They said insult God, and they got really scared to it.
Yeah, so they measured their fear and things like that. So intrinsically, everybody believes in God. As Muslims, we know we're here for a purpose, and if you're not working towards that purpose, I mean, even non-practicing Muslims are in a better place than atheists or people that don't ascribe to religion because they know. You know what I mean? If the bad things happen, at least they can ascribe it to something. Oh, this is happening because
If you have some faith and understanding and practice some of Islam, you're better. But if you have just a label called Islam and you don't follow it, then it's no good.
No, I don't mean it. Of course, it's no good. I just mean in respects if we're going to juxtapose, atheists against a non-practicing Muslim, because I've been there, I've been non-practicing, but I've had it in my heart, and I've known that I've known what I should be doing. I just haven't been doing it. But with an atheist, they may feel like they have nowhere to go, whereas I thought, I know what I need to do to make myself better in that regard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like there's a plan, there's a something guidebook and all that kind of stuff, something to follow. You got a direction. You're not figuring it out all the time, which is it's basically an impossible task. How can you figure out life all by yourself? That's crazy, right? Anyway, and then last thing, like the problem with godlessness is the degeneracy. Right? You don't have any. This is wrong. This is right. So people are weeing in the streets. They're getting drunk. They're beating each other up.
Can I just say, because we could speak on this particular topic for absolutely hours, because we've been saying it for years, what it's going to lead to and what has it led to. We're now in a time where there are no rules, you can be whatever you want to be. You can put on a dress tomorrow and I will be forced to call you a woman. And where's it going to go from here? Because things only snowball. This feels like the pinnacle, this feels like this is the worst it can get, but it will lead it's already started. Paedophiles have now been given a label. People who are attracted to minors, minor attracted people.
They've actually got that.
Minor attracted people. So they've been given that label. Why? Because we're now in a time where everybody has a label. You have no gender. You're all these different types of genders. They're just labels so that they can be given rights.
I can't believe we've actually gone that far.
So people are allowed to.
No.
People are sort of encouraging paedophilia.
No. So basically,
They've created a euphemism word.
they've been given a label. Paedophiles have now been given a label by the left liberals of minor attracted people. Okay. Now the argument is that's their sexual preference. They acting upon it might be wrong, but that's their preference.
It's crazy. Okay.
Going.
Exactly. So there's no red lines. We need red lines. You're a Christian. Would you agree we need sort of limits on how we should behave?
Everybody know how they should behave. Everybody's got.
I think a lot of people don't know. That's why they're kind of weeing and beating each other up, taking alcohol, getting into accident emergency. Yeah, exactly. They need to know the rules, right?
Jackie, by the way.
I'm not saying.
Yeah, I like Jackie. He's an old friend. I haven't seen Jackie for a long time. Christian friend here. Okay. Okay.
We're born with a natural disposition.
Okay. So now I'm glad you're here because I'm going to say a few things I would like your opinion on, right? Okay. So Now, the reason for the godlessness is because people have gone away from God for a reason. One is the unscientific nature of some of the arguments, right? So, they just say anything is possible, just believe, and I don't think so. I think you should. So the Quran is very clear. BigquestionsAnswered.com is my website, but I'll give you my thing. Are you about to go now? All right, cool. Appreciate your time. Really appreciate it. Okay. So first of all, Quran says that the understanding of religion there should be a scientific reason to believe in God. So the Quran look at the universe, look at all the systems that keep you alive, the recycling of the water. It talks about all of these things, and how is this life support system there if there's no God? So that's one thing, right? Then there's a lot of, I think, wrong understandings of God that has taken people away from God. So one is Hinduism that says God is a cow. And that doesn't really help, because how can God be a cow? But then I have a problem with, in terms of Christianity, that's why you're here, I like to your opinion. If God is a white man, then that causes problems as well. God should not be this race or that race. Yeah, it's the reason why, and it's important because there were the slavery for, when Christians from England went to Africa and took them to America. They said, thank God only a few of these black people died, because they were black, they weren't considered of the same value. And you could only say that because you've got a white God. What's your opinion? I'm being a little bit harsh, but I think it's important to talk about that.
It's very important to talk about. I don't believe in a white God.
Okay, good. So most people, when you see a picture of Jesus, it's a white man. So I think it's both sexist and racist, right? But it feels really harsh, and I try not to use those words. But the thing is,
why are you afraid to use these words? I'm not afraid of words.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you're here. You're making it easier for me. Thank you. Okay. So my point is that's yes.
Yeah, and it's not a white God.
Oh, okay. Fine. Right. Okay.
I'm not white.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
It's an image of me.
Right. Okay. So the problem is that's a lot of the depictions of, well, Jesus had to be a certain color because he was a man, right? And most people think he's a white man, right? But the problem, my point in pointing this out is that it's turned a lot of people away from God, because that cannot be a real understanding of God, of the white man, basically, right?
I suppose people interpret things their own way.
Sure.
Maybe that's why they're turned from God.
Sure.
I'm not turning from God. And
Right.
I don't know nothing about your Quran.
Cool.
Don't worry, I live with Muslim people.
Yeah.
I live in my community. I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
But I've never read the Quran, and I have no intention to.
Sure. Okay, cool.
And
Anyway,
that is because of my own belief.
sure. Anyway, you know what the nice thing about this little conversation is? I've known you for ages, right? Well, not ages, couple of months. That's ages for me on Speaker's Corner,
You
right?
know me.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I can say that stuff, and you were actually really nice about it, and it's like just
I'm
words
very
and
outspoken
understand.
if I want to be.
Cool, right, thank you. So luckily I got the not outspoken day. I don't know what it is. Alright. Anyway, so, and finally, what does Islam solve besides the godlessness, okay, and besides the misunderstanding about God, which has taken people away from God, okay, it fixes fundamental problems, like it fixes alcohol. How does it fix alcohol? It doesn't just say don't do alcohol, it creates community, so people don't feel lonely, so they don't need the alcohol in the first place. It creates a brotherly atmosphere so that you don't feel scared of your friends, so you don't need alcohol to feel relaxed. I don't ever need alcohol. I feel sorry for people who need alcohol to feel relaxed enough to talk to their friends. What kind of friends are they, right?
Can I say something?
Yes.
I think people turn to alcohol because they're in pain.
100%.
Right. So if
But why are they in pain? Why are they in pain?
because they've got history, whether it's abuse or
But it comes from disconnection, like not being close to people.
A lot of people, even though they got family, it doesn't mean they're connected to their family.
Exactly.
Sometimes you're connected to strangers.
Right. But
Sometimes
okay.
strangers become your family.
Well, that's true. But I think that if you have a good family system and people,
There are plenty of people
Yeah.
who don't have a good family system. It's dysfunctional.
yeah. So I've been just talking about how to have functional families, right? And I think you can have recipes. If there's no recipe for a functional family, then that means we've got no hope.
I know, but the world is not perfect.
Yeah. Okay, and of course,
People been abused by their own family.
100%, right? And
A lot
there's
of people look outside family life
sure.
to get satisfaction.
Sure. So basically, I think there are practical answers for all of these problems. Like, why is there abuse? I'm not saying there should be any good reason. I'm not saying I'm making excuses for people, but sometimes, they don't have very good sexual relationships with their wife, and or for example, I don't believe in people being monks because everybody has needs.
That is your
And
belief.
right, but there's a practical problem because the priests have been shown to be paedophiles and homosexuals, so many of them, because they're not indulging in their natural needs. Yeah, go on, your question.
Can I ask a question relating to the coping mechanism of alcohol that we
Okay.
mentioned? Because
Sure.
this crosses over into all sorts of drugs or anything
Right.
that you do wrong to cope with a crazy situation. Like, so you say that alcohol is used when people are in pain, that means coping mechanism.
Sure.
And what I want to ask is,
Yeah.
do you feel better after you pray? Like, do you feel calm after you pray? Because praying is also
That's a good
coping
question.
mechanism. That's my
What's your
I
answer?
always pray, and I always.
Does it give you more peace?
Just listen, right? Don't put
Sorry.
words in my mouth.
Sorry.
I always pray, and I always count to 10.
Okay, so I agree with this. So this is my little brother Adil, by the way. Okay, and so I like what you just said.
Excuse me, sometimes the things that people do and say, it makes you angry. It may not look like you're angry, but you can be angry and don't say anything.
So you pray in the gospel church?
Okay. No, I'm gonna move on. Okay, guys. No.
I pray all the time.
Yeah. So anyway, so I do believe that there's a verse of the Quran that says you can find peace just by thinking of God. So I like that question, but I'm going to move on. I'm actually going to try to get to the end of this somehow. Okay. So finally, what is true Islam? I think that's really important. Okay. So there's a lot of strange things happening in the name of Islam. There are people who go spinning around in circles. There are some people who pray to graves who say they're Muslim. Some people who are involved in terrorism, and they also say they are Muslim, right? And then, so what is the solution? Yeah, well,
It don't sound right.
no. I think there. Yeah. And so there's.
It doesn't sound right.
Yeah, so these are all things people have got into because there's so many different groups in Islam, and they're all just going in random directions. And Islam has never was supposed to be a religion full of factions. There's supposed to be one religion, and so God is not asleep. God hasn't forgotten us, and is always guiding us. And so I would invite people to learn about the Ahmadiyya Muslims, who have the only Khalifa, which is the international leader. There's no other group that has an international leader, and that must be of great importance. If you think about it, if there's a living God, why would God select one group and not allow any other groups to have an international leader called a Khalifa? So that's just one idea. And that'll stop people having just all their own ideas. If you've got one leader, a bit like a pope for Catholicism, right? You just got one leader, and then they just all listen to that one leader, and that one leader's understanding of Islam.
I'd just like to mention that all the other systems, they have tried to make leaders, even Christianity with Catholicism, and even the Pope, he said, I'm too old to do this job, and he quit. So even the Christian system that's been alive for many years, and it's been the largest faction of, or I don't know, second largest faction of Christianity, almost the largest religion in the world, Catholicism, and the head of their religion, the Pope, he failed because he said, I'm too old to do the job, and that means God is not with him, because God gives strength.
So I'm just going to rush off. I'm going to try to finish this off really quickly. I appreciate your input. Okay, so what am I saying? So I say Islam has got all the answers, but if you want true Islam, all the Muslims are waiting for the second coming of Jesus and the Imam Mahdi. He's come already. I'll have lots of links for a picture of him and everything. But obviously there should be proofs very, very quickly. First of all, there's a saying of Prophet Muhammad that when he comes, there'll be a sign that's never been shown before for any prophet, and that is on the first of the day. Basically, there'll be a sun and moon eclipse within the Ramadan on specific days. So I've got the link for that, and I've even got links to show that it actually happened, because you can actually calculate using science, technology, whatever, where if those eclipses happen at those times. So that's one thing. So if you're like really believe in God, then you would listen to that and you say, is there any reality there? Is God guiding us? And why would God support one particular person? Some people say that this saying of the Prophet Muhammad is a fake teaching, right? But this saying of Prophet Muhammad had been around for almost 1500 years, and so that means if that was somehow fulfilled by God and it was a fake thing made by a human being, why would God support a fake saying, basically? So a fake sign for the wrong person. Other couple of other things. I think I would just say, what's the benefit of following the true teaching? There's a lot of weird ideas besides spinning around and praying to graves. They've got ideas like Jesus flew up into heaven, which doesn't make sense because that's against the teachings of Islam. Because I'm saying there's a lot of, so I've talked about, just to summarize for you, how great Islam is, but there's a problem. Islam is full of factions of Muslims doing all sorts of strange things that have nothing to do with Islam, like spinning around. Or even, a lot of Muslims believe that Jesus flew up in the sky, right? And but even in the Quran it says, Prophet Muhammad was asked, you go and fly, if you're a true prophet, fly in the sky, and I've got a reference to this. Okay, so, yeah, sorry? I believe that he's a human being. He survived the cross, he fainted on the cross, but he was buried in Kashmir, and his grave is there, and all the evidence is there, and you can even see that in the Bible. If you go into, I'll go in a little bit of the detail. So this is much more in line with the Quran, because in the Quran it says he was crucified but he was not killed on the cross. Do you hear about this?
No.
Okay, but anyway, and it also says something very interesting. It said the Jews themselves, they really question if he really died on the cross. And actually in the Bible, if you look in the Bible, the person who put him on the cross, called Pontius Pilate, the Roman guy, he said when he was asked, when he was told, did Jesus, he was in charge, and they were reported to him that Jesus died, and he said, dead already? He was really shocked, because Jesus was on the cross for only a few hours, and it takes a few days to kill a man on the cross. It's not a fast death, right? So there's so much evidence. So in the Quran, to get back to the Quran,
He's still alive?
no, that's completely wrong.
He will be back?
He will. So all prophets who have been told that they will come back, they come back metaphorically,
not the last life. I mean, that he will back to the normal life.
I believe he's already come back, but metaphorically. That's what I'm talking about. And so I believe in the second coming of Jesus. I believe that already, but I don't think it's going to be literally Jesus flying him from the sky, because even Jesus disagreed with that. Because when Jesus came, before him, Elijah was supposed to come from the sky, and then the Jews said, oh, where's Elijah? He's supposed to come from the sky, and he said, that's John the Baptist. So even Jesus disagrees with this idea of men flying from the sky.
Do you believe of Quran or not?
100%, and the Quran says Jesus is dead.
Jesus will come back again.
Yes, I believe, but metaphorically. And the Quran also says Jesus died many times. So, for example, that means, yeah, I know that verse. That just means metaphorically. Any time that verse has been mentioned means spiritually. Okay, let me give you an example. Do you know what happened at the time of when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, died? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of Muslim confirm to
right, but also, you know what happened? What did Umar say? He did not want to believe at first that Prophet Muhammad died.
He not believe or not, you know.
No, I mean, go on.
Umar radiallahu anhu, just like, you know, when you receive,
he was shocked.
He was shocked, yes.
100% agree.
Already in Quran, إنك ميت وإنهم ميتون. Umar, Abu Bakr, all the Sahaba that time, they know Prophet Muhammad will die before he died. Because
But Abu Bakr knew better than everybody because of the verse when he said, do you know the hadith that Prophet Muhammad said, your Arabic is better than mine, right? Okay.
Yeah, I can translate it like,
Yeah, go on.
if your God is Muhammad,
Yeah.
Muhammad is dead. But if your God is Allah, Allah.
Oh, that's another one. Okay, we're talking. I agree with that one as well. But let me get to the main point.
Okay.
The main point is Abu Bakr, when Umar was in shock and he didn't want to believe that Muhammad died, and I believe Prophet Muhammad died. Don't worry about
okay,
I'm not talking about that, right?
This is
Abu
very
Bakr
clear, yeah.
said a verse in the Quran. Besides that one, he also said all messengers before Prophet Muhammad have died. So if Prophet Muhammad dies, why will you leave Islam?
Yeah,
You see? So what does that mean? Was Jesus before Muhammad? What do you think?
Yes, Jesus
That means-
before Muhammad.
That means Jesus died because he said all prophets had died before. Now, some
But
people.
this is not the point.
No, that's the only point, right? It makes sense, right? If this is the Quran, right?
Because, for example, not mean if I before you, that mean I will die after you or before you. But we believe Jesus sent it to Allah and he will come back again.
Sure, but this verse of the
He
Quran
didn't
says
die also.
no. This verse of the Quran says all prophets have already died. So you
What
can
is the
check.
ayah?
So I've got the reference. So chapter 3, verse 145 on my website. Put it there. Now, do you believe? Let me just a small question. Do you believe Bismillah?
Because the sun is.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Do you believe Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim is the first verse of each chapter? Because most people don't count it. So it might be 145 according to me, but 146 to some other people. But do go to my website, bigquestionsanswer.com, and I will have all the references, all these things, links, right? And I'll give you my card as well and my number you can share, right? But anyway,
Really,
thank you.
Search in Google, yes.
Yeah.
And
It's-
you are nice. Thank you.
Thank
So happy
you.
to talk to you.
You
Have a nice
helped
day.
me. Thank you
Thank
very
you, thank
much.
you. You're welcome.
Okay, that's the end of the video, and thank you, cameraman, for sticking around all this time.
Nice day.